Hello again, everyone, and thank you for joining us for another edition of Alaska Weather, Saturday's edition on this 8th day of August 2020. I'm Dave Percy, a meteorologist with the National Weather Service, and I'll be hosting today's show. Up first, hazardous weather graphic. There's a high wind watch out for the eastern North Gulf Coast, including the Yakutat area, and that's out from Sunday afternoon through Sunday evening, looking for winds to increase 20 to 30 miles an hour with gusts of 60 miles an hour, all due to a storm system. It's going to be moving up into the northeast and hitting the eastern North Gulf Coast and northern Panhandle pretty good with some wind and rain tomorrow and tomorrow night. And otherwise, there's no other watches, warnings, or advisories out anywhere else around the state today. So we'll just go right to satellite imagery, and you can see low pressure over the Bering Sea tracking eastward, bringing some light rain, fog, drizzle, IFR flying conditions, definitely cloudy skies with some fog to the Pribilof Islands today. St. George picked up about 1/10 of an inch in the last 12 hours. And some of that moisture trying to push up to the southwest coast, crossing Nunivak Island. But down to the south, looked like a few breaks over the eastern Aleutians, some sun breaks, possibly the Alaska Peninsula, but more of that into Bristol Bay, some sunshine today there. And Kodiak Island, showers ending, but still a lot of clouds around. And some clearing over the northern Bering Sea as well, St. Lawrence Island into Norton Sound, Yukon Delta, and also some sunshine up over the upper Yukon Valley. That allowed temperatures to rise into the mid-70s. Both Chalk, Yitzhak, and Beaver had 74 degrees at mid-afternoon today. And otherwise, looked like some sunshine over the Copper River Basin area, maybe the Susitna Valley. And also some thunderstorms developed over the Kenai Peninsula today, and that brought about 4/10 of an inch of rain today from those showers and thunderstorms to Kenai, and also up over the Alaska Range and into the central interior, and also some scattered thunderstorms over the eastern Brooks Range. Otherwise, rain continued along the North Gulf Coast today. Juneau picked up about a 1/4 of an inch in the last 12 hours, ending at 3 p.m. this afternoon, while Lituya Bay had about an inch, and about 2/3 of an inch fell at Yakutat there. But by contrast, Klawock only had 1/100 of an inch of precipitation. Otherwise, showers scattered across, again, from the Kenai Peninsula right into the central interior. One of the heavier amounts, Independence Mine, had about 4/10 of an inch. And Stampede, about the same, just under 1/2 an inch of precipitation. There were some scattered showers over the southern Kuskokwim Valley, and then some light rain, fog, and drizzle making its way onshore that trough there along the southwest coast, and a little bit more extensive over the Pribilof Islands. Otherwise, the Aleutians not too bad. A few isolated showers and some isolated clearing as well. And Arctic coast areas, low clouds and fog, but nothing too extensive there. And then that storm, 981 millibar low south of Kodiak Island, that's going to track northeastward, begin to increase the wind and rain for the eastern North Gulf Coast late tonight, and in toward morning there for the Panhandle. As you can see, the gradient pretty tight with that system, 989 millibar low there by 3 a.m. tomorrow morning, still a fair ways off the coast. And the trough brings a chance of showers to the eastern Brooks Range, North Slope, extreme eastern Arctic coast. Otherwise, the interior not too bad, diminishing showers over the Alaska Range. Excuse me. And again, chance of rain continues along the southwest coast, mostly the Kuskokwim Delta coast, south of Cape Romanzoff. Should be dry over the western interior. Weak high pressure in between the two low centers. Really just a lack of storminess more than the presence of high pressure there, clearing the skies out over along the Yukon River all the way up toward Eagle, and over the Kuskokwim Valley, as well as the western interior. should be dry. Next front pushing rain and increase in the wind into the far western Aleutians. That system not as strong as the one pushing into the Gulf of Alaska. Otherwise, the Bering Sea continuing widespread area, low clouds and fog with low flying conditions from the Aleutians all the way up through the Bering Strait and areas of the Arctic coast. For tomorrow, again, the high wind watch out for the eastern North Gulf Coast areas there. That low center tracks just southwest of, or just south of Cape Yakataga or Cape St. Elias. Look for moderate to heavy rain there for the eastern North Gulf Coast into the northern Panhandle with, again, winds gusting as high as 50 to 60 miles an hour. But southern areas down toward Prince of Wales Island, over towards Stewart and Hyder and Dixon Entrance, rain and wind will be lighter on both counts there. Isolated thunderstorms possible over the central Tanana Valley or the greater Fairbanks area, probably the White Mountains, as well as, again, isolated thunderstorms possible for the east central Brooks Range, with showers pretty likely along the entire Brooks Range with that trough. And also that low weakens into generally just a couple of troughs there, keeping showers in over the southwest interior, Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta, Bristol Bay, and low clouds, fog, drizzle for the Alaska Peninsula, especially on the Bering Sea side of the peninsula. Probably see some sun breaks on the south side, as well as Kodiak Island, partly mostly sunny with west-northwest flow. And a front pushing rain and breezy conditions into the Adak area late in the day or by tomorrow evening. And another low forms on that frontal system, and that'll push rain into the Fox Island, especially Unmak Island. And definitely by evening, it'll find its way into Unalaska Island with unsettled conditions for the eastern Aleutians. Trough keeps a chance of rain over the southwest interior. That low pressure area tracks northeastward into Canada. But still, southwest flow aloft, and one more trough off the southeast coast will keep it wet through the day on Monday, but it won't be as heavy as tomorrow afternoon or tomorrow night, precipitation and wind. And high pressure in the Arctic coast make for light winds, but low clouds and fog. Lows tonight, upper 30s to lower 40s for the Arctic coast, and 40s to lower 50s over the interior, lower to mid 50s for the Panhandle, and mid 40s for the Aleutians. Highs tomorrow, much like today, maybe a little cooler over the upper Yukon Valley, 65 to 70. Tanana Valley as well, 60s for the south central area and upper 50s for the Panhandle, mid 50s for the Alaska Peninsula, Pribilofs, near 50 for St. Lawrence Island. And for the lows, upper 30s to lower 40s for the North Slope and Arctic coast, mid 40s, mid to upper 40s for the interior, lower 50s, south central Alaska and the Panhandle, Kodiak Island, near 50 for the Pribilofs. Highs for Monday, cooler there over all of the interior, probably just lower to mid 60s at best anywhere in the state, with mid to upper 50s for the Panhandle and the Aleutians.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
First line weather graphic Sunday morning, IFR Central Eastern Beaufort Sea Coast and the eastern North Slope. IFR also there from right around Point Lay on down into the northwest interior. VFR there for the mid and upper Yukon River Valley area in the flats and all the way down to the Alaska Range. Marginal VFR Copper River Basin. Manuscus-Assitna Valley, Cook Inlet, Shelikof Strait, IFR, Northern Kodiak Island, Fognak Island, across the Gulf of Alaska, North Gulf Coast there into the north coast of the Panhandle, and lots of IFR out over the Bering Sea, extending right up to the southwest coast and northward across Gamble to the Bering Strait. For the afternoon, not much change out west there, maybe some a little more marginal VFR areas south of St. Matthew Island extending in toward the Pribilofs. And IFR still along the southwest coast down to Togiak Bay up to about Cape Romanzoff, with Gamble in the IFR zone through the Bering Strait up to the northwest coast. A little bit of improvement there over the northwest, but the North Slope, Arctic coast, marginal to IFR into the Brooks Range. Yukon River Valley, VFR all the way down to the Delta. Marginal VFR, Western Alaska Range. Actually, all of the Alaska Range will be marginal. IFR lingering over the Copper River Basin from Nebezna on down toward almost Valdez, and then marginal VFR, Northern Cook Inlet, Madanuska Valley, Kenai Peninsula, IFR, Northern Panhandle, marginal VFR for the central and western areas of the southeast coast. And it looks like late in the day, Kodiak State Airport and Fognak Island breaking out to VFR. And for Monday morning, Kodiak Island, marginal VFR, Northeast Bristol Bay IFR, lots of IFR, solid IFR for the Aleutians from False Pass westward to probably the Komodorskis and northward, St. Lawrence Island, northwest coast, much of the Arctic coast, north slope into the Brooks Range, all IFR. Eastern and northern Panhandle IFR and areas IFR up across the eastern North Gulf Coast into the 40-mile country, Upper Tanana Valley, almost to Eagle, but VFR along the Yukon River. And that pretty much holds into the afternoon, a little less VFR, but not that much less. Increasing IFR there over the eastern interior, though, and eastern Copper River Basin, down into the Cordova eastward to Yakutat, northern eastern Panhandle. Solid IFR for the Aleutians and the Bering Sea, getting up along the Bering Strait and the eastern Beaufort Sea coast. Anaktuvuk for Sunday looks marginal. Go IFR for Adigan, it's kind of split the two there, and Lake Clark and Merrill, marginal VFR. Marginal for Rainy, and all the Alaska Range passes look rather marginal for the day Sunday. Isabel, Mentasta, Tanita, marginal VFR. Portage, same forecast, marginal VFR. And Chilkoot and White, IFR. Freezing levels, cool pocket there over the Bering Strait, western Seward Peninsula, about 4,000 feet. 6,000 feet on down across Bristol Bay, Kodiak Island, 8,000 feet eastern interior. Ahead of that storm, the southerly flow ahead of the cold front there, pushing 12,000 feet up off the central coast of the Panhandle and 12,000 feet over the far western Aleutians. With that incoming storm, look for considerable moderate rime icing for the eastern North Gulf Coast into the northern Panhandle, with areas of mixed icing up over the eastern interior as well as the southwest areas, and then the weaker system out over the Aleutians bringing some considerable moderate narrower zone there in advance of the front in toward Adak late in the day. And for the jet stream, upper level low pushing into the Gulf of Alaska, that storm, good 100 to 110 knot jet there coming up toward the southeast coast, and northwest 70 knots over the Pribilofs to the eastern Aleutians. 9,000 feet, good winds here as well with that system coming into the Gulf. Still off the southeast coast there, but look for southeast 40 for the North Gulf Coast. And looking at 3,000 feet, pretty good winds there, 70 knots on the south side of that system, south of the Gulf of Alaska, but swinging around southeast, 65 knots off the north coast of the Panhandle, northwest 35 just southeast of Kodiak. And turbulence-wise, considerable moderate turbulence, especially for small aircraft, Barren Islands, and from the eastern Kenai Peninsula, Turnagain Arm, all the North Gulf Coast, right on down the Panhandle there, except for Prince of Wales Island, and also moderate chop out over the western Aleutians. And after the break, I'll be back with the
When you think of a national park, you probably envision wide-open natural spaces undisturbed by human activity. There are indeed such places, but even in some of the most remote areas of a place like Kenai Fjords National Park in Alaska, the mark of man is present. Marine debris is a menace to the farthest reaches of our globe, and even designated national park lands are not immune. In the summer of 2009, the Resurrection Bay Conservation Alliance, a grassroots conservation organization based in Seward, Alaska, decided to do something about the marine debris fouling the beaches of Kenai Fjords National Park. Marine debris coordinator Tim Johnson had first-hand experience with the issue.
The summer before, my wife and I, Michelle, had done a paddle from Seward, sea kayak paddle from Seward to Homer. Really, our eyes were open to some areas that we didn't realize there was so much accumulation. It was very deceiving up front. You couldn't really get a feel for the extent and impact of it. You've got this nice high tide line that's quite pristine, and you really don't get a picture for the impact, the amount of debris in that area until you get behind those storm berms. You get back into the lagoons and the vegetation around those lagoons. And then you see the absolute extent back into that veg and how intertwined and enmeshed these decades of trash deposition. So we were just appalled by that and said we got to get something together on a larger scale.
The Resurrection Bay Conservation Alliance is a local nonprofit community organization, and they have been instrumental in helping the Park Service obtain funding to get larger boats to help move the debris, and they get volunteer labor and organize the work trips. And so it's really a partnership between the Park Service and the community to help get out and really get a project done that in and of itself any one group couldn't do on their own.
Most of that trash was baggable. However, there were large items, huge, piles of hauser line, for example, that we just had to hoist up onto the boat.
The volunteers didn't just bag, haul, and hoist the garbage, but also carefully recorded what types of debris were collected.
In many ways, the debris itself is a resource. Archaeologists use middens, the trash heaps, as a way of analyzing past cultures. And in one sense, marine debris is a form of a midden. It's a trash heap that left for the future would be something that people could use to analyze our culture. It may not say the best things about our culture or everything that we want, but we need to be able to document what we've done so that we can preserve that legacy, make sure that we as a society don't forget what we've been doing.
We had two larger categories of marine debris that we picked up. Commercial fishing means like, say, gill nets, large hauser lines, anything that would be associated with more of a commercial fishing scale. And then the second category was more recreational fishing and household, which would be general plastics, things like that. So we had about a 75% of the commercial fishing marine debris element, and about 25% of the recreational and household further out the bay. And we had the exact opposite the closer we got to Seward. Within the bay, it was about 25% commercial fishing versus 75% recreational fishing and household.
The trash is not just unsightly for park visitors, but also poses threats to wildlife and marine habitat.
Really one of the larger issues now that you go to this plastic that can really get into the food web and affect the food web differently than something like glass.
These substances, for instance, all these polystyrene blocks that are breaking down into all these little crumbly bits are further breaking down on a microscopic level, and how much of an impact that has, in this ecosystem is yet to be determined, but I think it's got pretty high potential.
Well known that sea turtles will eat plastic bags floating in the water. They look like jellyfish to a sea turtle, and obviously a plastic bag doesn't go well in the digestive system of a turtle. Albatross will see small pieces of plastic floating on the surface and think they're small fish and other food sources, and eat that in their stomachs, especially in some of the northwestern Hawaiian Islands. They'll find dead albatross that have starved to death with a full stomach, and it's full of pieces of plastic.
We're affecting our local areas this way, but we need to be thinking about it from more of a state and global, international scale. And most importantly, to try and focus on prevention of it coming in the first place. Because we're just going to see this continuing, to build up on our beaches unless we're able to get a little bit more of an approach on prevention on the front end.
Marine debris is really a global problem, in all the oceans, and there are many different sources. Global shipping is one. Fishing debris from commercial fishing, recreational boating activity on land, stuff blowing off land, washing down streams, people just throwing stuff on the shore.
Though the problem can seem overwhelming, Johnson remains upbeat about making a positive difference.
No, you gotta start locally. You gotta take control of what you can do, and make something with that, and try and move on from there.
Overall, more than 9 tons of debris was removed from the beaches of Kenai Fjords National Park and transported back to Seward to be deposited in a landfill.
People gave a lot to the project in order to make it happen. That was awesome. One of the most amazing experiences I've ever had. Being able to put that large of a group of volunteers together, dedicated volunteers to put that much effort and give that much time and pull all the different agencies together to see it all happen was incredible. It was incredible. Yeah, very fulfilling experience.
Welcome back. Looking at today's sea ice analysis, completed Saturday today. Not much change from yesterday. Still mostly sea ice-free waters along the entire stretch of the Arctic coast there over to Mackenzie Bay. And really no big changes expected over the next 5 days, except a gradual continued melt back to the north. And for the coastal water forecast, storm coming in. We've got storm warnings out for the extreme north coast tomorrow. Southeast winds increasing to 50 knots, seas building to 17 feet. Gale warnings out for the remainder of the panhandle with south to southwest winds of 35 knots, seas 16 to 23 feet. Gale warnings also out in effect for all of the inside waters in the case of Clarence Strait, southeast 35 knots, southeast 40 knots for Stevens Passage, and south 35 knots for Lynn Canal. And those, on all counts, diminish for Monday, but still small craft advisories on the north coast, southwest 25 knots, 15 to 16 foot seas, and west-southwest 15 to 20 on the south coast. Clarence Strait, winds down to 10 knots from the south, southeast 15 for Stevens Passage. Lynn Canal, south 25. For tomorrow, north winds 45 knots, 15-foot seas for the eastern North Gulf Coast. We've got gales northwest 35 for the western North Gulf Coast and the Barren Islands west 35 knots. Also gale force winds there. Seas 11 to 15 feet. Prince William Sound northwest at 20. Cook Inlet southwest winds 15 to 20 knots. And Chemichac Bay west wind 30 knots. Seas 9 feet. Not much change for Chemichac Bay on Monday. Cook Inlet, west winds 10 to 15 knots. West winds 30 knots for the Barren Islands and small craft advisories for the western North Gulf Coast. Winds, though, come down to 20 knots out of the west for the Middleton Island area and Prince William Sound, west 15. For the Kodiak Island area, small craft advisories tomorrow. West winds 25 to 30 knots. Alaska Peninsula, southwest winds 25 knots, 8-foot seas. Bristol Bay, southwest winds 20 knots, seas 5 feet. And for Monday, for Bristol Bay, west winds at 20. Same thing for Shelikof Strait, east side of Kodiak Island, small craft advisories. West winds at 25 knots. Sitkinak to Cape Sarachev, southwest winds 20 knots. Also the Bering Sea side of the Alaska Peninsula will see southwest winds at 20 knots. Fox Islands, west winds 25 knots, And for the central Aleutians, south winds 25 knots, western Aleutians southeast 30 knots with 9 to 10 foot seas. And then far western Aleutians, Kiska to Shemya on Monday, east winds at 20 knots, Kiska toward Adak, south at 20, Adak and Atka, southeast 25 or south to southeast 25 knot winds, 8 to 10 foot seas. Small craft advisories also for the Fox Islands, east-southeast winds 30 knots, 6 to 8 foot seas. Southwest coast tomorrow, southwest wind 10 to 15 knots, 4 to 5 foot seas. West winds at 20 knots for the Pribilofs, north 15, St. Matthew Island, southwest 15 for St. Lawrence Island. Those will pick up a little bit for St. Lawrence Island on Monday to 20 knots. Otherwise, the southwest coast, light west winds at 10 to 15 knots, 4 to 5 foot seas, and south to southeast winds 15 knots for the Pribilofs and St. Matthew Island. For the Arctic coast, Kaktovik demarcation point, west winds at 15 knots, northwest 10 on the eastern coastline, light winds for the central coast, southwest breeze at 10 for the west side, and Wales to Cape Beaufort, south winds at 15 knots. Outlook for Monday, from Wales to Cape Thompson, southwest breeze at 15 knots, even lighter though from Cape Thompson to Cape Beaufort, southwest at 10, western Arctic coast, south at 10, and for the central and eastern Beaufort Sea coast, pretty light winds at 10 knots from the west with 1 to 2 foot seas. And taking a look at tonight, again, high wind watch out for tomorrow and tomorrow evening for the eastern North Gulf Coast, especially Yakutat, winds gusting to 60 miles an hour. And also, again, storm warnings coming in tomorrow for that area of the marine forecast. And gales for all of the Panhandle, winds increasing tomorrow as that storm pushes in tonight. And then for tomorrow, that front makes landfall by midday to early afternoon, give or take there, with the tight gradient, rain heavy at times in the northeastern North Gulf Coast, winds 40 to 60 miles an hour, lighter rain and wind on the south coast there of the Panhandle, rain into the Copper River Basin. And then the outlook for Monday, that system pushes eastward across the Aleutians to the Fox Islands late in the day, and chance of rain arrives at the Pribilofs Monday night. Less rain in the Panhandle, stays wet over the eastern interior.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.